Okay, so I guess I am there. All right, that makes me feel better. Okay, so we are up and running. Let's see here. Make sure that people can hear me. If anybody is watching, please let me know. I've been having a couple of technical difficulties in the past, and I want to make sure people are actually hearing me before I get started. Okay, so let me get started. I'll start over again. Back up. So what today I'm going to do, I am Chief Sarkhan, and I am playing the Secret World today. And what I thought I would do is I would do something a little bit different today. Rather than just show you gameplay and running around the world, I was going to cover deck building, because that to me is probably the strongest aspect of the Secret World, but also the most confusing when you first get started. So I was going to cover both the in-game and out-of-game tools you can use to get comfortable with the Secret World and what you have available to you. Because you got to remember, if you're not aware, the end game of the Secret World is the ability to be flexible, the ability to have every ability, every weapon, every skill, and to swap out on the fly out of combat and say, you know what? This is the role I'm going to fill right now. This is what I'm going to do right now. So with that in mind, we're going to take a look at the skill wheel, how you can use the in-game search function to find abilities, to see what you have available, and then I will show you some offline tools that can help you do some out-of-game planning on what you want to do. And actually, let me reverse that. I'm going to show you my wiki real quick first, so you can kind of get an idea of what the different weapons capabilities are and the philosophies behind them, and then we'll go from there. So I have a wiki up here. Yokai and I wrote this together, and I have a page that's called The Philosophy of Deck Building. It looks like my camera's still flashing for some reason. Anyway, you can read this offline, but what I want to quickly cover is the weapons. So you have 3 melee weapons, 3 ranged weapons, and 3 magic weapons that you can choose from. And this is the basic roles that they fill beyond DPS. Because you got to remember, every weapon can do DPS. So this is strictly a chart to kind of give you an idea of what else those weapons can do. And I'll show you how these come into play in-game here in just a second. And so you can see, looking across here, a hammer uses mitigation for tanking, high health, tanking role. Blade is also a tanking type weapon, but uses a high defense rating to achieve that. Heals from fists, pistol, shotgun, so on and so forth. So when you plan out to first start playing the Secret World for the first time, you're going to get an option of picking a weapon. And then when you hit the first little starter area, you're going to get to pick your second. So it's a really good idea to kind of plan out what you think you want your playstyle to be before you do that. But keep in mind, eventually you're going to be able to own every weapon. And you can see that here for me. We open up the skill wheel. I have the capability to equip every weapon. I have points spent in every weapon, but I have focused on hammer, chaos, and elementalism. Now if we go up here to our skill point chart, this is what determines what QL level of weapon you can equip. It determines whether your weapon has bonuses to either its DPS or its augmented abilities, like I just showed you, the hammer being a tank, fists being heals, by the two lines that are available. As you can see, every weapon has damage. Every weapon has a secondary, which kind of defines the role that provides to a group party situation. So with that in mind, we're going to kind of walk through some of the planning that you would do once you've picked your 2 weapons, and I'll let you, the audience, tell me which 2 weapons you want me to start with. So the first 2 people that chat me up and tell me a single weapon, I'll just pick the first 2. Oh, looks like we got a commercial.
Using robotics and mobile technology.
Sorry about that. We'll pause for a second while that plays out. Okay, so the way this chart works, this determines the QL level of the weapon you can equip. If you have 5 points spent into it, you can equip a QL 6 weapon, so on and so forth, and you get these points while doing quests and gaining experience, so on and so forth. Down here at the bottom are auxiliary weapons. I'll just point these out real quick. These are more end-game weapons that give you your 8th slot for your passive and your active abilities, and you will earn those by doing a quest, but they cost 35 points and you only have to spend it once. The rest of these, it's cumulative, so this is 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, all the way up. So that's additive. You got to get that many points to unlock it all the way. Back to the skill wheel. It can seem intimidating the first time you jump into the game and you look at this and you go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But you can click on these and you can get the lists and kind of see what's coming up. And each line always alternates between an active and a passive ability. And as you can see here, you can equip 7 actives minus your auxiliary weapon and 7 passives minus your auxiliary weapon that are available to you anytime. If you own an ability, you've spent the points for it, you can swap these abilities out at any time. What I wanted to do today was kind of explain my philosophy behind how I pick my 7 actives and my 7 passives. The 7 passives, you want to keep in mind that you can have those from any weapon. It doesn't matter, they will affect you. The actives you can only have from the 2 weapons you have equipped. And so that's why it's kind of important to plan out a good build. So with that in mind, I've covered the basics there, so let's jump back to the wiki and take a closer look at why you would pick certain weapons to go together beyond just their play style. So we're going to go down to the first concept that comes to the game. It's called state synergy. And this is what a secondary effect, when your weapon hits a target, what it's going to potentially do to that target if you select ability that amplifies on it. So for example, hammer, certain abilities apply impaired state and certain abilities apply a weakened. And then so you decide, well, you know what, I want to weaken targets with everything I do to help my party. What's the secondary weapon that would help me do that? Oh, pistols and shotguns also have weaken. So maybe I pick a hammer and a shotgun build, and I can be kind of tanky, provide weakening status, plus I provide some support to my group because they both do weakened. That's where we get the concept of state synergy. But it doesn't stop there. Now we have trigger synergy, which is things that can cause those states to be activated or amplified. So, for example, in the hammer, if I get a critical hit, it could trigger one of those state synergies, or if I block, it could affect one of those things. But it could also affect other things, not just the state synergies. But these are triggers that cause your abilities to do certain things. So when you're also looking at planning out your weapons, you would want to have good trigger synergy and good state synergy, but they don't have to be inclusive. They could be different. It just depends on what you're trying to do with your deck. But kind of knowing what those triggers and those are help you kind of really build your deck and what you're looking for and what you want to do. Now here's where it even gets more complicated. You have subtypes. And what subtypes are is how that damage is applied or how that effect is applied on a target. A good one is like fist. you can burst your target, which means you hit it multiple times really, really quick. Or you blast your target. Hammers have this blast effect where you hit them, and blast usually will knock them back or knock them to the ground. And so these type of effects can trigger things to happen. And here's a little explanation down here of what these type of things do. Well, if you affect one of these type of subtype triggers, it can cause your states or your synergy to even be more amplified. So it's a really good way to get a concept of what's going on. And you want to keep in mind, depending on where you're at and what you're doing, you have mobs that will be immune to certain things, which is why it's important to be very flexible in how and what weapons you use, because you may have, for example, I use hammers as mainly, and I use impaired. There is a number of mobs that are immune to impaired. So when you get into that situation, you want to be able to switch out to abilities that don't take advantage of impaired, because it's not doing you any good. You're not being as effective as you could. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's jump back into the game here and take a look. So for example here, I'm going to just highlight over some of my currently equipped weapon abilities. And we'll go ahead and open up the wheel so it's a little bit easier. Right now I'm kind of in a solo build, so I want to have a lot of block available, and I want to weaken the enemies or make them impaired so they can't hurt me, but still put out a lot of DPS. And so I have this one here that when I hit them, it adds to my block rating. Here, it generates a high amount of hate, which is good for tanking, and it deals a lot of damage in an AoE fashion. And so those two are my builders, which means I'm going to build up resources on both weapons. And then I have these next two abilities, which are my consumers, or actually three abilities. I have a single target consumer that's just going to hit them really hard, and if you can see the text there, it says if I hit an impaired target, I'm going to also get a major ward effect, which reduces damage that I take. So there you go. I have synergy between the fact that I'm going to put an impaired state on a target, and then I'm going to hit that target that's got that state and give me a buff. And you're going to say, okay, well, where does that impaired state come from? Okay, so Pile Driver also benefits off the impaired. Let's see here, weakened. So Eruption is a consumer that puts that impaired state on the target. So if I run into a battle, I use this elite ability, I put an impaired state on everybody, and then I use these other consumers over here, I'm getting extra buffs. I'm increasing my crit rate, I'm increasing my ward so I take less damage, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the concept of how we build things together. But this is just one way to go about it. The key thing I want to point out at this point is the fact that you have to have builders and consumers in your deck, and then you're going to do things that are going to supplement those main abilities. Hopping over to the passives, they kind of all play in line the same way. So when you're going to start off, you're going to have your weapon. These bars are going to be empty, and so you're going to want to go over here to this ability search, and this lists every ability in the game. It tells you how much it costs and what you can do with it. So you might come up here and say, well, I'm interested in, anybody got a weapon they want to look at? Anyone? Okay, let's pick something. We can either focus on melee, ranged, magic, miscellaneous, or you can pick a specific weapon. So let's just pick shotguns at random. So now we hear all the abilities available to shotgun. So we jump over here and we go, oh, let's see here. I need actives, I need passives, I need builders, I need consumers. A good way, what I like to do is start off with, is I'm going to take a look at the elite abilities, because you're only allowed one elite ability, on your hotbar. So you might as well take a look and see what's available. These are the elite abilities that are available to shotguns. Well, starting out 7 AP, that means it's an inner ring ability. So we're going to take a look at it. And if you just click on it, it'll actually open up the train, the area it comes from. So you're going to look at Kneecapper. Kneecapper affects 5 people in a 60-degree arc in front of you. And it's a cone attack, which means it blasts out. And it does 688 physical damage. Now this is based on my gear. This damage number will actually change based on your gear. It'll go up or down depending upon your QL level. But, you know, it's still good to know about what it's going to do. And it also makes the target become hindered. Okay, well, hindered reduces their movement speed, which is very good for a ranged build because you hit them, now they're approaching you more slowly and you can kite around and slowly beat them down. So knowing that that provides hindered and it's an AoE, let's go ahead and go to our regular actives and see if we can search on hindered. Okay, there we go, hindered. These following abilities also have a hindered state in them. So we look at Powder Burn. Builds 1 resource for each equipped weapon. It's a single strike, target strike, dealing this much damage if the target is hindered. Okay, well, we just shown we had a way to make a target hindered with our elite. This one does extra damage if it hits a hindered target. So let's look at passives. What do we got over at the passives that have hindered? We'll look at the beanbag. Whenever you apply hindered, you gain a minor penetration. So this takes advantage of the hindered also. We put the hindered on there, we get an extra penetration buff, which means we're going to hit things harder or bypass their armor a little bit better. Okay, so you kind of see how our deck is already building out. We have 3 abilities already just based on the fact that we were focusing on hindered. So now I want to do the same thing in comparison in an offline tool. We'll pick shotgun and we'll look for hindered and see what we got. So I'm going to jump back over here, and this is my favorite site that I like to use. It's called TSW Deck Builder. And so we're going to pick shotgun. And so now shotgun is listed as our first weapon. And we're going to go over here and we're going to hit miscellaneous and we're going to go find that elite, right? We have a couple of elites, the Kneecapper. We'll just equip that. I didn't mean to do that one. We'll take that one off. We'll go back to our builders. Remember, we wanted hindered, right? So we'll go to states, hinder, and on the site, see how much easier that was to actually find all the hindered shotgun abilities based on their state, actives and passives. So here is that Powdered Burn, which was our single target hinder. Oops. Let's take that one off of there. And then this was the passive that went with it. Okay, so now we have 3 things that already are working off of hindered, but now we also have a strike and a penetrate. So let's go ahead and look at our triggers. And we got penetrate. And we can see that, oh, well, 12 gauge is a passive. Target becomes weakened. Effects, okay, that's not helping us. Whenever you penetrate, you also cause the target to be hindered. Well, that's a good one that goes with what we're doing, right? We want a hindered state, and we also want to penetrate. So if we put that one up there, now we have 2 states of penetrate, 4 states of hindered, all based on actives and passives of just the shotgun. We haven't even started talking about the second weapon. Okay, but before we get too far, we also need a consumer, right? Because if we don't have a consumer, building up, we're not going to do anything. So let's go ahead and click on consumers and see what we got here. This one consumes all shotgun resources. It's a single target. Well, it's always a good idea to have a single target and AoE consumer anytime you build a deck. It's just lets you conserve your resources for when you actually need them. If you only have a single target and you're surrounded by mobs, it could be very difficult. Now, it doesn't have to be after your primary weapon. It can be after secondary, because your builders build for both weapons, but your consumers only build off of one, or are used off of one. So you're going to want to consume at least a consumer for both weapons you use. So just for the sake of argument, we're going to equip both of these. Out for a Kill is our single target, and both barrels is our AoE. Okay, these are just consumers. Okay, and so we've got those. And the reason why I'm positioning where I am, this is a builder. This will be the builder for our secondary weapon. This is a single target consumer. This is an AoE consumer. And this is just a elite ability. So I'm going to put my secondary consumer right there. And then this one can be your free-for-all, special extra help to your build depending on what you want to do. So if we were going to go back into the game now, we could do the exact same thing that we were just doing there. It's just a little bit more fluid and easy outside of the game. But here we go. We can go, let's see here, back to active, and let's search for penetrate this time. Oops, did I spell it wrong? And it's very literal. Penetrate. So here we go. You can see we only really have one active ability that has penetrate. We switch over to passive. We have a bunch. So are you guys kind of starting to see how this building process works? Is there any questions so far? Because I know I've just been kind of talking fast, and I want you guys to get good and comfortable with the use of the in-game and potential out-of-game tools, because it's very important that you build a good deck, or you're going to feel really gimped and unsatisfied when you first start out in the game and you don't have very many abilities. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my hotbars, and we're going to build this deck just like I did offline, just so you can see. Now keep in mind, now that I've cleared all that, I won't be able to equip any weapons, any shotgun skills, without equipping a shotgun first. So let's go ahead and equip a shotgun. And all I got to do is right click to click on it. And let's see here. We'll go ahead and take off my secondary weapon here, just so it's not cluttering up the process. And same thing with the auxiliary. So let's go back into the deck builder here. So here we are. We can do this like this. We can go, okay, we picked a builder. We had pump action. So we'll just go ahead and drag that over here. We'll take our out for a kill, which is our single target consumer. Oh, wait, no, that's... Did I get up on the wrong thing? There it is, out for a kill. And then our elite. Remember, we had the elite. Just drag it on over here. Click on the other row. And let's see here. What did we pick? I forget now. We had both barrels, that's right. Okay. So we picked both barrels and we put that right there. Now we need to pick a secondary weapon. Before we get too far in this, we kind of want to know what else we want to do. Oh yeah, we want to pick our passives. So we're going to look at here, reduce the charge of breach shot, hit and run, powder burn. Nope. Let's go back over here. Okay, starting out, that's a good one to have. So we'll throw that on there because that's extra damage from shotgun abilities. What else did we pick? Let's see, beanbag rounds and pin down. Oh, those aren't from up here. Those are from out here. Okay. Anyway, so that's the basic concept, is we'll start filling up the hotbar. And the main thing, like I said, you want to remember is you want a builder for each weapon. Let's pick our secondary weapon. Oops. Inventory, let's just pick one at random. We're going to go dual ranged. So now we have a pistol equipped, so let's click over on pistols and use the search function and see if we can find hindered and penetrate. So we're going to go active, hindered. Alright, so we have a bunch of abilities that also hinder. So we're going to take a look at these and see if any of them are builders or consumers, and see if they help our case. So above the law, ground target AoE that builds resources. So this is an AoE builder, so that looks like a really good one to help us out. So let's go to, does any of these, are these consume? Oh, and this is a consumer that has hindered on it also, but it also cleanses. So there we go. Now we have a consumer that we can put on our hotbar. And I must not own that ability, so I can't equip it. But anyway, so that would be the idea. And then we would do the same thing. We would jump over to the passives and see what we got. Hothead has hindered and affects our critical chance, so we throw that over there. And now we have a passive that helps hindered. So now let's look at penetrate and see if, I don't think pistols has penetrate at all. Nope, it doesn't. So we would just look at for anything else that goes with it. And so on and so forth. And so that is the essence of deck building 101. It's just a matter of you have to have the weapon equipped, you have to own the ability, and as you've seen there, I had abilities I didn't own, so I couldn't use them. Also, you want to keep in mind that different weapons start either full or empty on resources. As you can see here, I can build with my pistols and shotguns, but I can't consume because I have not built up any resources yet. Resources for weapons, guns, have to hit a target for you to build up. And once you've built up, you'll see them filling up on your hotbar. And then you can consume them. So for example, let's take a look at my player block build. I just re-equipped it, but I have to re-equip my weapons now. Oops. Okay, so now you can see the difference here. Melee weapons, like hammers, swords, start with full resources. I am full of resources here. Magic starts empty, but you can see it. Pistols, shotguns, and rifles all start empty, and you have to hit the target. And you'll build up here, and then you can consume them. So let's go ahead and jump somewhere so you can see how this works against a target, so you can get a better understanding of why it's important to have builders and consumers and how the dex synergy kind of works. And I'll show you off of my build and the reason why I built with what I have as far as how I start a fight using my elite to put that hindered ability on them. And then I start with my builders, and there must be a lot of people in Agrathos.
Mine edges are perfectly safe, though.
And I know I'm going someplace pretty easy, but we'll go out to the airport, and I'll fight some hard mobs, so you can really see the synergy working in a tough fight. And maybe I'll even get some glyphs to drop while we're at it. So just a recap, builders, consumers, you only can equip one elite, one active and one passive. If you get the auxiliary weapon, you get one active and one passive for them also. You can have as many builders and as many consumers as you want, as long as you're within the constraints of the number you can put on your bar. You can change them in any time outside of combat as long as you own them. So you can mix and match and play with your decks as much as you want until you find something that really works for you. And then you can also mix it up for your group situations. And so, and you can also save your decks right here under gear management. You can have a deck and you can save it here. Or if you want to use an add-on, you can do something like Viper's Deck Management, which saves their deck. I know there's another add-on that does deck management also. The nice thing about the add-on version is you can just save your hotbar configurations without worrying about your gear. The in-game tool that comes with it is a gear management, so it saves your hotbars and your gear, and you have to update it if you get any new gear. Kind of frustrating that it's tied together, but that's what comes with the game. But you have both tools available. So here we go. This is Kingsmith, by the way. This would be the first zone you would be doing quests in once you start the game. And this is what your map looks like. Thanks, Tantalord. I appreciate it. This area here is what's called a lair. And what lairs are like outdoor world dungeons. It's going to take a full group to go in there. Even though this is a low QL level zone, that is a high QL level area. So don't be running too far past those fiery lines unless you're with your group and you're prepared for the tough work. But we're going to go out near there so I can show you my abilities and how the QLing works, or the resource management works. Everything else out here is almost a 1 and 2 shot kill for me, so showing you right here locally wouldn't do much good. I mean, it would, but it wouldn't. And just because these are low-level mobs, they will attack you. So, for example, I'm going to just use my AoE there, and they all fell down. So, see? Not very exciting. Seems like I'm lagging for some reason. That's not cool. They must have did a patch update and my zone is trying to reload resources. So we'll give it just a second here. Hopefully the client catches up. And just so you know, the wiki I showed you, which Yokai and I wrote, has lots of good information about the game. I just still need to update it for the auxiliary weapons per Brinovich. Anything you want to know about the secret world is up there. All the crafting recipes, how all the different mechanics work in the game, what all the weapons are, lots of good information there. I have an introductory video that's linked there to my YouTube channel that tells you all the basics of how to play the game. I did not cover deck building in that video, so I wanted to cover it here as it's its own entity, because like I said, I feel that when people first jump in the game, a lot of people get turned off by how complex the system is. But once you get the hang of it and understand, okay, you're going to start slow, but once you get things going, you're really going to love the flexibility and the functionality of that skill wheel and what it brings to the table, because nobody's locked into really any role. You can do it all as long as you're willing to put the time in to get all those abilities. And I'm not sprinting. I was wondering why it's taking so long. And it really boils down to, in the end, what's your play style is going to be what your favorite weapons are. It's not going to be, oh, I picked a sword and that's all I can ever use, like a lot of games. You get bored with the sword, pick up something else, put some points into the skills, and keep on trucking. You know, that's the beauty of the Secret World, above and beyond the missions and the storyline. You know, if you haven't heard about the investigation missions and you really like to think in a game, Secret World is the game for you, because it isn't so much anymore about just click through the quest text real quick, because if you do, you're going to miss a clue. You're not going to be able to figure out how to solve the puzzle without going online somewhere and going, oh, somebody got the answer for me, you know? So it's just got a wide diversity in the game that is just unparalleled in a lot of the other MMOs that are out there. And I play a good majority of them. So we're almost to where I wanted to go. Yes, here we are. So over here, it's not quite the right area, but we got all these. So as you can see here, I'm hitting multiple mobs. I use my consumers to consume my hammers. Then I'm going to use my consumer to consume my chaos. Now I switch to single target until I build up that AoE consumer again. I hit the ground, and you can see my chaos is filled back up again. And there we go. They're all dead. So, as you can see, no matter which weapon I hit, my builders were filling my resources up. And as you can see there, I stopped combat. My magic, which is chaos, dropped off. They slowly went away because I wasn't fighting any longer. But my hammer starts full. So I can use either one of these consumers right out of the bag, either single target or AoE. Or I can use my elite, which is also a consumer type ability, and hit big mobs. And I like to start with my elite if I got a group of mobs, because it puts that impair on them. It also knocks them in the air, and that's just fun. Who doesn't like having molten lava bolts shoot out of the ground and throw mobs all up in the air? It's just one of the reasons why I love hammers. And you can see here I have the biggest hammer in the game. This is not what the hammer looked like. The neat thing about the game also is you can have your look any way you want. You get this weapon that you like the look of, you get an upgraded stats, you use a mold, you change the look, bam. The other thing you have is you can change your outfits anytime you want. So like right now I'm wearing this little red outfit. But if I wanted to, here, let me add this one, red skirt. Say I'm bored with this red outfit. I don't want it anymore. You can go into your dressing room and just change your clothes, or I'm using an add-on. I'm going to pick something I've saved before. So I have my other outfit called Red Hot. I have red hair, so I got lots of red outfits. My Monster Hunter outfit. I want to get a little more traditional. I can go dragon style because I am dragon, so I want to represent, you know. I like to wear this when I go out in PvP and say, okay, yeah, I'm dragon, I'm going to kick your butt. Also makes me a target, but you know what? So that's where, with everything else, you can look the way you want, you can play the way you want with your abilities, but you want to build your deck. So here we're going to go out here and we're going to try this again so you can see, watch the builders and consumers. See, I have no chaos, but I have full hammers. So I'm going to run up here, I'm going to launch these suckers in the air, consume that, and I'm going to use my AoE. Consume, single target for a minute. Oh, I still got a lot of them, so I'm going to AoE for a second. Single target consume, AoE consume, target, consume, and dead. So there we go. And that's kind of the routine I do when I fight here, is I pay attention to how many mobs I have. Do I need to do AoE? Do I need to apply a debuff? Because I have a passive that makes this apply a debuff on the targets, and you can see the counter counting up over here. And let's just try that one, just so you can see it. We'll just do a single target, but I'm going to use my Chaos Consumer, or I mean Builder. And you can see here I'm building up. Every time I hit them, I'm applying Exposed, which increases the damage they receive by 3% per. So now I'm up to 10 stacks of that. So now they're just taking massive amounts of damage because of that buff. And every time I get to 5 stacks, I'm using the consumer just so I can start building up again, because it doesn't do any good just to hold on to it. And there we go. Get a taco to rebuild real quick. And so that's how I build a deck. I use my wiki to kind of see what weapons I want to put together. I go out to the outside tool to kind of browse the synergy. Do I want a hindered deck? Do I want a penetrate deck? Do I want a high block? Do I want a heal deck? So on and so forth. What do I want to put together? And kind of plan out my actives and passives so they all work together to achieve my goal. And I come in game and equip them. But like I said, you do have the capability to do all that planning and searching in-game, because all abilities are placed here, and you go with it. Now, not everybody builds their decks the same way as I do. Everybody puts them on their hotbar the same way I do. But this is what works for me. You just need to find out what works for you and go with it. So with that in mind, get out there, play with the tools, see what you want to do, get in game, play with the weapons. Though there's no respec, you never lose anything. If you come in here and you buy a pistol ability and you fill this in because it's only, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 19 points to fill out this line, and you realize, you know, I'm just not enjoying pistol. Grab yourself a blade and start putting points in that one, because these points come pretty quickly. You know, get out there, do a couple quests, and you'll be all full up again. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to just kind of experiment, see what's good for you, see what you like. And really, that's all I had for this episode of Deck Building 101, except here to answer questions. I also don't mind helping you plan out a deck or giving you advice on it. You just have to contact me either via Twitter or my wiki, or friend me in game and chat me up there. I stream The Secret World every Tuesday, unless something major comes up and I have to either switch games or not stream for the day. But that was pretty much it. I think I've covered the majors of deck building. So probably what I'll do here, if there's no questions, I'm going to stop this stream and restart it, and then I'll just start a stream of just gameplay of The Secret World. That way I kind of compartmentalize it, the video, and don't have to split it off later. So last chance for questions before I restart the stream and see what kind of trouble I can get in. Okay, well with that, I will go ahead and call that a finale on Deck Building 101. I hope you found it educational, and it now makes better sense to you on how to put your deck together. And thank you for tuning in. It's been great fun, and we'll see you soon if you don't stick around for the next episode. Thanks.